Rip City Mornings.
One guy that I always cheer for, though, is our next guest. He is the founder, the CEO, the head writer. He is the head of the party planning committee for the I-5 corridor. His name is Tyson Alger. He joins us on Wednesdays. Good morning, Tyson. How are you?
So I missed this Myers thing last night, and I had it paused at the 10-second marker of the clip that's going around, and it's after Myers stands up. It's after he does the three. He sits back down, and he promptly puts his chin on his right hand, carving the palm. That's an embarrassed look. Like you don't do that. You don't do that after doing something you were supposed to do. Like I get the explanation. It's actually a pretty brilliant explanation.
It really is.
Because it kind of does like the. You know, like when you like criticize a defensive back for like, oh, that guy blew the coverage, but you don't really know the coverage because you don't really know football.
Yeah, exactly. That quarterback's locked onto that receiver. Like, you don't know that.
Yeah, like I'm going to have to see like the all 22 of this. But this looks, I think, as the caption with the emoji is telling me right now, I think bro switched teams.
Oh man, what like? The only reason I will maybe think like, because I'm with you, watching it as the Zapruder film, back into the left, like the did I really just stand up? Now here's the other, like, because we switched jerseys around. Grumpy old man alert, Tyson. I love the NBA and I'm loving these playoffs. Really wish the Blazers were in there, but I don't like when home teams wear dark colored jerseys. I don't like it. All right, I grew up in a simpler time where you wore white jerseys at home and the dark colored jerseys you wore on the road. Now everything is intermixed and intermingled. Maybe he didn't think he was still playing for the Heat, but maybe he kind of forgot like they were wearing green that day and not wearing the whites. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the positive for Myers is this isn't like the worst video he's been caught on camera for.
Yes. Very true. Not even close. Like cheering for the wrong team on an NBA bench, and we're still light years away from the worst video. And probably had he's on an NBA bench. So
exactly. Can I keep you off topic for one more second?
Please do.
You had talked about home team wearing whites and road team wearing colors. Did you see that this year the Mariners have eliminated their road grays and they're just doing like the navies, and they've kept the darn turquoise greens and this, but I feel like that's a pretty traditional jersey to throw out of your repertoire, right? Like I've actually enjoyed the gray with just a Seattle across the chest. Like that just seems like classic baseball to me. I feel like we're flying a little too close to the sun here if we think that everything can just be a fun jersey, right?
I'm 100% with you. Let's workshop this from a business perspective, because I think if it doesn't make money, Tyson, it doesn't make sense.
I keep publishing stories every week. Yeah.
So I wonder, of baseball jerseys purchased, what psychopath spends $180 or whatever a jersey costs nowadays to buy a very nice replica jersey, but buys the road grays? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder if from a business that's not. It's not selling. We're not selling the cinnamon donuts. We got to get rid of them. I'm wondering if maybe that is playing a factor, because I'm with you. I love road grays. They look great playing on the TV, but if I'm a consumer, I'm not buying a road gray jersey. What am I, psychopath?
Yeah. I had a road gray jersey, and the psychopath part might come into part of that, because I used to wear that around school thinking that I was Griffey in Yankee Stadium, and I thought I was a dangerous man.
You were?
Now I just have to pretend that I'm stuck in the pitcher's park of T-Mobile all the time. But hey, that's fine.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. We have had multiple conversations, Tyson, because you were there in 2016, 2017, Oregon basketball with Dillon Brooks, and we have had kind of those conversations as to what he has turned into. It's been a bit of a spell for Dillon Brooks since you and I, Tyson, have last talked. He said he pokes bears. He called LeBron James old. He has since been absolutely dismantled by said old man in the last 2 games. Now on the verge of elimination. Reports are coming. Has Dillon Brooks, and time will tell, has he dismantled his NBA career in just a matter of 5 days, Tyson?
It kind of feels like it might be that way, right?
Doesn't
like
it?
I don't because the thing is I still don't think Dillon Brooks is a bad player, but he just decided that he was going to be the guy who's like, let's go at LeBron when you're not at that level. And I think you can get embarrassed pretty quickly by that. And the crazy thing is like, it doesn't like really surprise me. I mean, like anyone who likes to watch and followed him at Oregon, like Dillon was always a guy who propelled himself with like this perennial chip on his shoulder, whether it was, when he was younger, he got made fun of a lot because he was pudgy. And when he was in college, it was T-Rex because he had short arms. And, so he always kind of like played off the fans, played off the competition. But at the college level, like he was one of the better players. And LeBron James is pretty good, man. And the fact that Dillon kind of took this opportunity to piss him off, like in the first round of the playoffs, when you're a young team that like hasn't really proved a whole lot yet. And then, when you have like Doris Burke, like nationally picking apart your game, you're not in a great spot. I respect what Dillon's done to get to this point, but like at some point you got to kind of read the room. And I think Dillon Brooks has always been pretty bad at reading the room.
Well, and what's interesting, Tyson, and I'm curious because, Dana Altman has never been one to really let his players have a lot of freedom in terms of talking to reporters. Seems kind of keep those cards close to the vest. You were still there. It almost feels like he's changed his whole persona. Like he talks different. His cadence is different. He does this sleepy thing where he's like, oh, LeBron's old. Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
Is this an act? Was this kind of always who he was? I don't know. It's interesting seeing, because I wasn't there every day. I watched on TV a lot. You were there every day, but it seems like he's changed like his whole persona.
It's just funny that whenever like he's kind of playing like the WWE heel, I just have like a vision of interviewing him in one of the NCAA locker rooms while he's eating like a pudding cup. And that's the thing is like I actually agree with you. Like I think he's changed his. I don't know if he's so much changed his personality up, or if he's decided to just play, this one card of his personality all the time. Because I mean like the jeans, the shirtless jean jackets, and like the bling, and like the aviator sunglasses. Like I feel like this was all kind of part of the role that, I used to remember writing like the everyone hates Dillon Brooks stories, except for Oregon fans, like during the NCAA tournament. And I think Dillon just kind of really likes the attention of that role, and like kind of playing off of that role, and kind of, being that grinding thorn in your side type of player. But like, the thing about like being like Patrick Beverley is Patrick Beverley never has to guard LeBron James. Like Dillon Brooks has to guard LeBron James. And like, there's a little bit of a difference there.
Well, and I think one last thing on Dillon Brooks, then we'll move on because we got a spring game to talk about. Obviously big time spring game stuff, but I think people can respect a villain, right? It is, hey, I'm not Draymond Green, not a big fan of yours, but obviously respect, understand every team needs a bad boy, right? Every team, every boy band needs a Donnie. All right, that aged me a little bit, but the real ones know. Or an AJ. They're all for the kids. But we don't like whiners. And it felt like the last couple, like when Dillon Brooks got embarrassed, went like 1 for 8, I think, from 3, and it was just like, I'm out. I'm not talking to anybody. It's like, no, you talked your you-know-what before. Now come in and either double down or, have a funny, but the whining afterwards, I think that's where I think a lot of people got turned off.
Yeah, you can't like get into this, be the one who's given all the quotes, then blame the media, and then say you don't want to talk afterwards. Like if anything, like he should have just gone like the full like either Draymond or Pat Bev and embraced it and like throwing gasoline on it and made it like even more ridiculous because like right now it kind of looks like that you were trying to be a fake tough guy and then LeBron showed you up and now you're just kind of running with your head in your hand. And I think that might be the toughest look to come out of it because, like, you know, a lot of the thing about Draymond is you didn't really start knowing Draymond's name all that well until the Warriors started winning a bunch of NBA titles. And he was a big part of that. And that kind of helped shape his persona a little bit. But, like, you know, this Memphis team has kind of been walking around like they already have a couple titles under their belt. And you know, Brooks is pretending like he's been, coached by like the bad boys Pistons and have that sort of edge. But, you know, the Pistons left the floor early. They didn't leave the interview rooms early.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Promising outlook weather-wise, as far as we'll go, not to try to jinx it.
Don't jinx it.
Promising outlook in the Willamette Valley, up and down the I-5 corridor on Saturday, which Oregon will have its spring game. And it's interesting because, Tyson, I'm old enough to remember how Mike Bellotti handled the spring game, and then how Chip Kelly handled the spring game. And really it was kind of a Taggart to Cristobal where the spring game became like this can be a recruiting showcase. This can be, you know, more than just, a thing for fans to go and check out. We can bring in a lot. And obviously Dan Lanning has now taken that to a completely different level because this is not only a scrimmage that with promising weather is probably going to put a lot of people in Autzen Stadium, but this is a really big recruiting showcase that has turned into over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the spectacle it's turned into. And, you know, Oregon State had their spring game last weekend and they had maybe like 5,000 or 6,000 people. And Oregon fans like to kind of chirp on that because the Ducks like to put 35,000 people in the Autzen. I think people kind of forget, like, that's a relatively new thing. Yeah. Like it wasn't until the 2011 spring game that I think it was in the 2011 spring game they set a record and it was like 42,000, and that was because they were coming off of like the national championship game. But like before that, like, you know, I think the most fans like Joey Harrington ever played in front of the spring game was like 7,000 or 8,000, and like this was at a time too where they used to take like the show on the road and bring it to like Wilsonville High School or Tiger or. You know,
they played it at Volcano Stadium in Kaiser.
Yeah, like it used to be what the coaches try to say it is, and it's just like, oh, it's just one of 15 practices, and it used to be kind of like a good way to like bring the show on the road and bring it to different parts of the Oregon fan base. And now it's just kind of too big to do anything with it, right? Like they're going to get 30,000+ in there. There's probably going to be several dozen high-profile recruits that the Ducks are kind of patterning their whole thing around. Like this, it really does kind of feel like the spring game used to be like a fan base outreach thing, and now it's completely turned into probably the most important recruiting day of the year. And you know, that's kind of college football in 2023. But man, I was just looking through I'll have something on the corridor later today or tomorrow about it. But I was just kind of looking through old newspaper archives, and you know, I think it was the 92 spring game where Danny O'Neal comes in and he's just shocked that like Bill Musgraves and Dan Fouts are there. And you can tell they're there because there's only 4,000 people in the stands. And it's not like there's like Twitter announcements and stuff, but it's just like, oh my gosh, like they came to my game. And now it's like Marcus Mariota, like they put out a press release that he's going to be the coach and like all those sorts of things. Like it's definitely way more of an event than it used to be.
I was at a spring game as a fan when it was roped off. The stadium was roped off. And actually more people showed up and it kind of started becoming a thing. It also was a very nice day. And usually they would have under the cover, which is the south end of the stadium, that's where they would let the fans. Well, it was a sunny day, Tyson, and everybody wanted to sit in the sun on the north end of the stadium. And of course, Don Esser was like, you can sit on the north end, but pick up your garbage. Like that's what the spring game was. You can sit over there, but just try not to leave too much garbage behind. We really don't want to clean it all up. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us. on 620 Rip City Radio. Speaking of spring games, we got to talk about Dillon. We got to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes. I am hesitant, Tyson, to say that this is going to be maybe a colossal failure in Colorado because I don't know what NIL and I don't know what the transfer portal is going to do. But based on past evidence in college football, guys that try to run college programs like pro programs, coaches that make it more about themselves than their team, dancing in a cowboy hat on the 50-yard line usually would spell imminent doom. I don't know if I'm fully committed to that, but what are your thoughts on the Colorado soap opera that has been the last probably 5 to 7 days?
I don't think it's going to work, man. Like, I'm on your side. Like, look at, like, I feel like this could work at a lower level division. I mean, it works really great for them at the FCS level, but like, we haven't really seen an instance of taking a program that has been bad for 20 years, like, throw in like a decent year here or there, and then just being like, let's turn this around. And like, the thing about the coverage with Dillon is like everything like wants it to be immediate, and like I feel like there's going to be a pretty darn big letdown if they expect like this team to be good this year. And I think that's where things get interesting because it's been such a big overhaul. And what did it say, like 3/4 of the team has been in the portal at
46
like
46 players into the portal.
I just think that's way too much transformation in 1 year for a coach who's not proven at this level to have success in this immediate year. And then that's when things get interesting next year, because then it's, buy into the process, buy into the program. Well, what's the process in the program? Because like the year before, it was just like, if we don't like it, get the heck out of here. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting because like, people assume that Lincoln Riley was going to be able to turn USC around in 1 year, and he had a Heisman caliber quarterback, and they still didn't know how to play defense and are still far away from kind of being that top level of team. So I think it's good for the Pac-12. I like the show. It's kind of funny that like The Athletic laid off all of its West Coast writers, but is now covering Colorado like it's like the New York Yankees in 1998. Yeah, like let's see what happens next year, because I think this is a very competitive Pac-12 this year, and if Colorado doesn't come out of the gates and win four games in a row before they're coming into their Eugene game, like I think this team could really struggle, because who are the leaders on it? Who are the coaches that players can trust? Like I think college football is more complicated than just bringing in a bunch of free agents. That's what I'm just trying to say, Justin.
Yeah.
I believe in the old school methods.
I'm right there with you. I think I'm right on this again, because football is a funny sport. College football is an even funnier sport because you can't treat it like professional sports because they're kids. And you got a coach that is clearly all about himself. Not that he would be the first one in college football, but doesn't have anything really to back it up. And you got to play TCU, Nebraska, and Oregon in 3 of your first 4 games. It's going to be fascinating. His name is Tyson Alger. He runs the I-5 corridor. You need to be subscribing to the I-5 corridor if you haven't already. If anything, a barometer of what is to come, right? I-5 corridor puts out a piece. About 6 weeks later, that piece will also be written by someone else. So good for you, Tyson. Trend setting as always.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we had to get rid of that spoiler-free designation. Because it seems like, if anybody wants an ESPN piece done about them, call us first.
Yes.
In a couple months, it'll happen. So
there you go. Follow him on Twitter at Tyson Alger. He doesn't have a blue check mark either. Don't worry about it. It's cool. It's him right here. We verified him ourselves. Tyson, have a terrific week, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, this AI software is getting pretty good.
It's real good.
Sounds just like liking them a whole lot this time. So thanks, Jonathan.